Hi, my name is Ella Biolchini. I'm in grade 8 at mahopac Middle School, and I'm here to show you my presentation. What energy drink is best? So the question is, what energy drink would be best after exercise to replenish electrolytes and help you avoid dehydration? So the purpose of me doing this experiment is my brother gets very bad, severe dehydration migraines, and I want to see if the energy drinks that he's drinking is really helping him with his dehydration migraines. Some materials I used was a multimeter, uninsulated copper wiring, alligator clips, and a 9-volt battery. The multimeter in my experiment was used to measure the flow of electrical charge in the solution to determine the amount of electrolytes in the liquid being tested. And a multimeter works by measuring electrical current, amps, and voltage. And it works by injecting a small current into the circuit and then measuring the current through the liquid for a reading. Now, electrolytes are very important because they help balance the amount of water in your body, and they help regulate pH levels in muscles, and they also balance your blood pressure. And they also help rebuild tissues, muscle tissues. And electrolytes are essential minerals that can include sodium, calcium, potassium, chloride, phosphate, and magnesium. And they dissolve in a liquid very easily, so that's how we measure them. Now, the reason for uninsulated copper wiring is because it has a non-coating and non-conductive material on it. And it was used to be complete in my circuit used on my probe. And I used it because it's been the most economic and the ability to conduct electricity. Dehydration. So without electrolytes, you can suffer from dehydration. And dehydration is the loss of water from the body at a faster rate than it can be replenished. And you can get dehydration when you sweat and you don't drink water because electrolytes come out when you sweat. And you can also get dehydration when you don't drink enough water even though you're not sweating. And in my experiment, I used the equation G equals I divided by V to measure the amount of electrolytes in my solution. So G is the electrical conductance, I is the amperage, and V is the voltage. So I would test for amperage and voltage and then divide the two numbers, and I would get the G, electrical conduct. So for my preparation, I built a probe, and the probe was a 2.5-inch milkshake straw with 4-inch uninsulated copper wiring coming at the top. And the reason I had to do a certain length is for controlling to make sure that they were all the same, and because I was using plastic cups and I had to make sure that it would fit all the way at the bottom of the cup to make sure that I would be able to get a reading. After I would dip and get my reading, I would then dip the probe into distilled water, which I would clean after every liquid, because distilled water does not have any minerals in it, so it does not have the ability to conduct any electricity. So using that, it would help sanitize my probe so I would not cross-contaminate to other liquids. So my hypothesis was, if I test different sports drinks and electrolyte packets, then the tap water with the hydration packet will have the most electrolytes because I am directly placing electrolytes into a solution where there's already electrolytes. So in my trial, I set up all my drinks and I started testing them with a multimeter. And then, as I said, after each drink, I would clean my probe with distilled water to avoid cross-contamination. And then I would take two readings of each liquid, the amperage and voltage, and I'd do those both twice to make sure that the numbers would be the same. They were. And then after each liquid, I would record. Here is what my setup looked like. You can see the liquid with the multimeter, the alligator clips, the 9-volt battery, and then this is my probe right here that would go into the liquid. After testing, I put the numbers into a chart so I can get a visual of what they would look like, and so it would help me. And then I also put them into a graph so I can see clearly which one was the highest and which one was the lowest. This one here was distilled water because, as I said before, there's no conductivity, so it will always stay 0. So I did that, and I was looking at my liquids and seeing which one was higher. So my conclusion was I disagree with my hypothesis because the drink that had the highest conductivity was coconut water. It was 10.22. But the one that I said that would be the highest was the hydration packet with tap water, but that only had a 9.13 conductivity rate. So coconut water had the highest, and in addition to looking at testing, I also looked at the ingredients on the back of the label. I looked on the label of the nutrition label because each liquid had different electrolytes. Coconut water had sodium, calcium, potassium, and magnesium, and meanwhile the others only had sodium, and so coconut water had more electrolytes in it, so that would mean that it would have the highest amount. So in conclusion, I recommended coconut water to my brother because it had the highest amount of conductivity, aka electrolytes, in the liquid, so it would help him the most. Some variables in my experiment was the independent was the different sports drinks, the dependent was the amount of electrolytes in the solution, in the drinks, and then my control was distilled water because, as I said, there was no conductivity, so I can easily clean my probe and then go on to the next liquid. Equals amount of liquid because, as I said, it has to be a certain length from the bottom so I can easily dip, and then for control to make sure that they were all the same. And the temperature, because as I did not do any research on this, but with background knowledge from science class, I know that atoms and electrolytes, they move at different temperatures. If it's colder, they don't move as fast, and if it's hot, then they move very fast. So I wanted to make sure that all my liquids would be the same for testing, that way I can get accurate readings of each. And then some things that I would do in the future would test for sugars in the drink, because you don't really want a lot of sugar in your energy drink because that won't give you the electrolytes. So I really want to test that to see which one would have the most sugar and to see which one you really shouldn't be drinking. I'd also want to test different types of energy drinks because I only tested the ones that we use in my house and what we use all the time, but other people might not use them. And I want to test different ones that more people would be using, like Prime, but I didn't test that because we don't use it. And I want to test other things to see like how other people would know, if other people would know that that one's not the best, then they should get that. And then I would also want to test a more variety of hydration packets because I only use one kind of hydration packet, but hydration packets can have different effects because they can have more electrolytes, less electrolytes, so I really want to test more of those. Thank you.